82. Currently here in Beaver County, we are at 66 degrees. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Curtis Walsh for 1230 WBVP 1460 WMBA 95.7 FM, 99.3 FM, all presented by St. Barnabas and streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Now, it's time to talk on Teleforum on Beaver County Radio. 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, 99.3 FM, and beavercountyradio.com. And now, here is the host of the show, Eddie Crow.
First hour was great. I had nothing to do with it. Larry Kelly was here, the Law Group, Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly, and George, and Larry is great. Second hour is going to be great, and I'm going to maintain very little to do with it because the second hour, I got questions, and I got people here that got answers. Bill Pasquale is here, and Steve Bailey is here from Medic Rescue. This is being live streamed. You can see them both right there. Bill, how you doing?
I'm good.
You all right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Well.
Steve, you all right?
Doing well, thank you.
How many gross questions do you get asked about being ambulance drivers in the course of a week? I mean, like really, severed arm, anything. Do you get those questions?
I guess over the course of the many, many years we've been doing it, everybody wants to go, what's
the weirdest, grossest thing? Yeah.
And they usually don't want the answer.
You start to explain it to them, they're like, never mind. Well, is that part of why it's so difficult? The reason I wanted to talk to you guys, we talk about the police don't have enough. We talk about firefighters, there aren't enough. We talk about teachers, there aren't enough. But I don't hear it talk too much about EMS, not enough. You guys are absolutely in the same boat, and it's an incredibly difficult job. Bill, how difficult is it to recruit people right now?
Well, it has proven very difficult. Just like the other emergency services that you spoke of, it's tough to find people that really want to get into the field. They're all physically demanding fields, ours very much, because you're having to carry patients and handle patients and do a lot of physical work. I'm not sure if that's what chases people away or if it's just the nature of the business that people don't seem to be interested in, but it's challenging.
And you've both been doing, Steve, how long have you been doing this?
Totally, probably close to 40 years, but I've been with Medic Rescue about 35.
35 years with one company.
Yes.
And Bill, how long have you been?
I've been 38 years with Medic Rescue.
All right, I'm going to ask Steve first, but I'm going to ask you the same question. How have you managed to keep your sanity? I'm not being flippant with that. We're talking about, in addition to it being, like Bill said, it is a physically demanding job. You're not dealing with people on their best day.
No, you're absolutely correct.
How do you learn to balance that to the point you can do it 40 years?
It's difficult sometimes. I'm not on the street like I used to be. I'm one of the managers now, and I'm managing our dispatch center. But every part of this job comes with a different demand. The mental toughness, the physical toughness. There's a lot of things that go into it. Learning how to compartmentalize a lot of that is it's a trick. And then we are, today we have more resources to help some of our employees as far as like the mental health side of it goes.
That part it's starting to get recognized.
Yes.
Okay.
It truly is. We actually in our scheduling software have a link to hotlines that our people could access anytime they have to make that call. We also offer an employee assistance program. It's an anonymous program that we pay. We retain some counselors, and our folks can go see them anytime they want to. So we do that compartment or those components to try to keep it that way, but it's tough. I mean, it takes a special person. It truly does to get into this and stay in this. And a lot of times it's just a path. People are coming in here, come in as an EMT. Actually, we bring them in as a wheelchair van driver, which is a big component of what we do.
Okay.
Move them to EMT sometimes. Some will go on to be paramedics, and then they're usually on their way to being a nurse, a PA, a physician. But this is a path to get there, and it's a good path. It's just right now it's broken.
What made you stay with this path rather than follow it to something else?
Well, I probably my parents. They both were involved in this.
Okay.
Back in the late 70s, and when I graduated from high school in the early 80s, this is the path that I wanted to go on, and I've been fortunate to be able to do what I've done all these years and get into a company like Medic Rescue that's been very solid. and I've been able to spend my entire career here, and I will spend my entire career here before when I retire.
Bill, talk about how you got into it, because I don't know too many people. Steve, you might be one of the exceptions that knew what you wanted to do out of high school, and you did it, and you're still doing it.
Well, I think part of it too is we were both volunteer firemen. And I've been doing that for 41 years. So
okay, is that Bill? Is that how you got into it?
Yeah, that's actually how I got my start. Volunteer fire department. Couple years into it, our chief at the time asked a few of us young guys if we'd get interested in first aid training, mainly to be there for the other firemen in case somebody got hurt or if we had
yesterday.
Yeah, much like yesterday. I had no idea this is where I would end up. I took the first aid classes. It spun into the EMT classes, and then a job with medic rescue, and then became a paramedic. And 38 years later, this is where I am.
Explain what medic rescue is. When you guys came in during news, I was asking you some questions. Where I grew up, the local hospitals just had their area, and they sent the ambulances. Medic rescue, that's not what it is. You cover a whole lot of ground. How do you do that? And aren't you a nonprofit?
Yes, we're
that's an expensive nonprofit because ambulances, how much does an ambulance cost? Just curious.
Completely outfitted, you're looking about $250,000.
And it's a nonprofit.
Yeah.
How are you doing it?
Well, we're doing it. I mean, we bill for service to insurance companies.
Right.
That's our primary means of getting finances for keeping the company going. But that's it. We do have a annual subscription drive, which brings in some money. But really, our main source of income is fee for service.
Has it always been that way?
Yeah. Yeah.
And you've maintained, is it more difficult now, in addition to not being able to keep up with employees? Is it more difficult to keep up with money? Steve's shaking his head.
Yeah,
yes.
Steve could probably speak to that.
Yeah, so you have to follow all the changes in insurance rules, right?
Who's in charge of reading those?
Yeah, we have a great billing staff upstairs. Our office manager, she's on top of it. But you follow all the insurance changes. Our primary is Medicare and Medicaid, and then all the commercials that fall in underneath it. So, that misnomer, we get zero subsidies from any. We get zero funds from the public, other than we do a subscription drive that we'll be kicking off here next month. But we get zero tax dollars from any municipalities anywhere. So it's all fee for service. So it's chasing insurance companies when we take people to the hospital.
And what ground do you cover location-wise? Because I'm trying to think of something other than a medic rescue vehicle that I've seen anywhere around me. I don't remember that.
Well, we're primary for a lot of the county. We work well with Economy Ambulance. They're down in the Lower Valley, like in the Ambridge area, Economy area.
Yep.
Northwestern is out in Darlington, New Galilee. So if we can't handle a call, one of those two ambulances will handle the call, and vice versa. If they're out on another call, we will go down there and run for them.
All right, Bill, what would cause medic rescue not to be able to handle a call? How many ambulances could be running at any one time?
Ideally, on a good day, we could have 13 on the road.
All at the same time?
Yeah. If we had a full complement of employees. Now, that's becoming difficult because of attrition of staff.
Mm-hmm.
So we're probably on a good day maybe down to 10 or 8.
Okay.
So we handle the calls based on priority. So obviously the more significant the call, chest pain, difficulty breathing, things like that, get quicker attention. So we manage the calls based on those priorities and get the service out there as quickly as we can to those that need it.
So the dispatcher is also basically doing triage.
Yes.
All right. How much short are you employee-wise? If you could hire everybody that you wanted to hire and needed to hire right now, Steve, how many people would that be?
40.
40?
Yeah.
We have people.
I'm going to go so slow driving home to avoid accidents.
That's to get us back to where we were prior to all this. The pandemic started some of this.
Okay.
People were seeking other career paths. What happened was the EMT classes did not happen in 2020.
Okay.
So that took away a whole year of us being able to try to recruit people in, and yet our other folks are moving through. Like we've had some people finish nursing school, we've had a couple kids go off to PA school, off to medical school. So those people are still following their path, but nobody's coming behind them.
And because of the lag, nobody, even if you wanted to be coming behind, you couldn't take the classes.
Right, in 2020, yeah,
Right.
and then it went virtual, and it got into a mess, and it's hard passing the test now because the state went to a national registry, and the test is like an adaptive test, so it
Okay,
frustrates
dumb
people.
that down. I don't know what that
So
means.
basically, it's giving you questions, and it keeps giving you questions based on how you answered the last question. So
If A, then B,
pushing
if
through,
B, then
yes.
okay.
So it's pushing through. So that's part of the problem. People, not as many are taking the classes, and even less are testing and passing. We're trying to figure out what that problem is on the state level. We actually are represented on the state board for emergency services in Pennsylvania. So we meet like quarterly, and I'm the rep, and it's a statewide problem. Is trying to find people to do this.
It's a way oversimplifying it when somebody tells you, well, Bill, Steve, you guys should just pay them more money, and then they'll show up. That's not solving the issue, is it?
It is not.
No, no, money is not the answer to this. Manpower is.
It would definitely help attract people, but nonetheless, it's trying to find people that are willing to get through. EMT's about a 4-month commitment. I can't even remember how many hours it is right
To
now.
get the
that
certification.
That's the basic certification we require to be on the ambulance.
All right.
And then the paramedic takes 18 months sometimes, depending on the program you get into, to get that program and to become a paramedic, and which is the higher advanced level certification, right? Or start the IVs, give the medications, do the things that we do in the street. So that schooling gap is what's created our problem right now.
Are there kids that are interested? Are you starting to see now that that's coming back? Do you see a light at the end of the tunnel numerically at all?
We're working.
Yes
So
and
what
no.
we do is
Bill, you tried to be so optimistic about that.
we
Yeah.
offer we have a wheelchair van service, which is we're one of the few ambulance services that do that. We're full service, right? We're about getting everyone where they need to be. Your appointment, your medical appointment, your dialysis treatments, whatever.
Right.
So one of our hooks is we try to get you in as a wheelchair van driver to see if you even like the field, because it doesn't require all that training.
Okay.
And then if they do, we try to push them through the EMT side of it and then see if they want to make this a career or put them on that path. So it's trickling. Like I just finished, before I come over here, I was training a couple new EMTs or wheelchair van drivers that, are interested in getting into the field. So we're working on that. It's a slow process, but the job market's so competitive that an entry-level job like that, it pays about the same as anything else. So you have to really want to kind of do it.
It has to be what you want to do. It's
Right.
not just a job.
Right.
How often does that happen that somebody shows up and it's a job and then they realize, oh man, this is way more than you guys are both. If you're not watching this on social media, I'll describe the scene. Bill and Steve are both giggling maniacally. Thank you for hiring me. I'm going out on my first day, and they come back in and they're just drenched in sweat and muttering to themselves. Is that it?
Yeah, sometimes they don't get through the orientation part of it, so they find out.
No,
within a day or
wait.
two.
How do you not make it through orientation? What are you telling these poor people?
I don't know. I wish I knew what was happening to chase them out, because they come into the interview process and they're all gun ho and ready to
Sure.
get into it, and like a day or two into it, they look at us and say, "Hey, this really isn't what I expected." And
Do you
then-
ask them, what did you expect?
Well, in the interview, we
Yes.
lay out what we do. I mean,
Right.
I make no bones about it. We're busy. Our wheelchair van drivers are some of the busiest people you'll meet because they're on the road all day long,
Moving people.
moving people
Oh, yeah.
around, getting
All
you
day
in
long.
there, and they're busting their butts, and they do a great job. So you'll get some of these people in there, and they'll come back and go, "Oh, this is way busier than I want to be." And
Did they think they were just delivering parts from an auto store?
that's a good question, because the last question I ask in the interview is, "Does it sound like something you're interested in?" And they're like, "Oh yeah," and then no.
How much of it you think is the emotional baggage? And we talked about that earlier. This isn't a job where you show up and you do your job and you go home and your job goes away. How do you compartmentalize that, Bill? I'll start with you.
Well, and I try to explain that portion in the orientation process. I mean, we can't control what we get called into or the outcome of that call. But I tell people, if you make sure that you do the best job that you can do for a person in need, you should be able to go home and sleep at night. Now, those are easy words to say,
Right.
but if you've given that person every shot, and delivered every level of care or type of care that you can, then you should feel good about the job that you did.
You did all you could do. That's all you can do.
Right. The outcome is in, the hands of a higher power sometimes.
How long did it take you to learn that? Because that has to be a learning curve when you're coming in.
It took a few years.
Did it?
Yeah, it took a few years. But, that it is part of it. We have lost people because of certain calls. And
Just somebody took a horrible call and came in and said, that's the straw.
Yeah, threw up their hands and said, and I understand that. I mean, you don't want to have somebody to suffer emotionally, physically, mentally, if they cannot do the job. I mean, that's not right. And that's, again, why Steve said, we offer those support services out there. And that's gone a long way to help, because this is a problem in the industry, too. The mental well-being of providers. And
just like healthcare providers or law enforcement, it's the same stress stuff, isn't it?
Right. And the thing is, and what I always attracted me to the job was, when I get up in the morning, I have no idea where I'm going to end up through the course of the day. So I could come in and sit at my desk all day long and do office work, or find myself in the middle of the worst thing that you could experience as a person.
And you like that.
We do. That's the way we're.
I was going to say, Steve's grinning again.
Yeah, that's the way we're kind of programmed or wired.
Some of us are wired a little bit differently, I guess.
Well, I'm glad, because it's an absolutely vital thing. Steve Bailey is my guest, and Bill Pasquale is my guest from Medic Rescue. I've got more questions after news. It's Teleforum on Beaver County Radio.
I'm Patty.
And I'm Bob. We're retired, and we live at St. Barnabas in the Village.
We used to have a house.
Lived in it for 40 years.
Raised our kids.
But it became too much. The upkeep, the stairs.
Moving seemed like such a hassle. We didn't even know where to start, so we didn't.
Until we met Cindy at St. Barnabas.
She talked us through our options.
Yeah, and she helped us with our move and all the arrangements.
There was so much stuff. Who knew we had 3 fondue pots?
But she made it easy.
So easy.
Now we enjoy ourselves.
Golf, the pool, new friends, shuttles to where we want to go.
The pub and the food.
So good.
There wasn't a long-term commitment or any large fees.
And they have a healthcare system on campus with doctors if we need it. The kids really like that.
The kids like to come and eat with us.
There's an easier, worry-free way to retire at the Village at St. Barnabas. Come visit us for a free and informative counseling session and personal tour.
I can't believe you waited so long.
I can't believe you waited so long.
Visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com or call 724-443-0700.
When accidents and injuries happen, you need the experience and insight of the legal team at Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George. Since 1934, they've been committed to the physical and financial recovery of personal injury victims. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George, a law firm of AV-rated attorneys and super lawyers. Attorney Larry Kelly.
That we establish relationships with our clients, because I still believe that relationships still matter. That this isn't strictly business between me and the client, that there's a relationship that develops. And there's nothing more important, I think, in any attorney-client situation than the client believing that the attorney actually cares about them personally.
For your initial consultation, call the law firm of Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George at 724-658-8535 or online at lgkg.com. Luxembourg, Garbett, Kelly & George, keeping promises for over 80 years.
Hi, folks. I'm with our good friend John Diagardi from Roe Monument. John, you were telling me earlier that people really should not rush into choosing a memorial for their loved one. Now, why is that?
We found that families need to take ample time to grieve first. Grief is not something that we get over, but rather something that we learn to live with. So the length of time to grieve varies from person to person.
You mentioned that the monument can't be placed right away.
That's right. There are certain things that need to take place before a monument can be installed. So it's really worth taking time to think about how to plan and design a memorial that truly reflects a person's life. It's actually a healing activity that helps to alleviate grief.
John, this makes a lot of sense.
It does, and when the time is right to proceed, not only can Roe Monument help families choose and design their memorial, we can help them save as much as 50% by eliminating the middleman.
Thank you, John. Folks, you can learn more simply by visiting RoeMonuments.com.
Rev up your engines. It's time to celebrate summer in a GNU way. GNU's Body Works has everything it takes to make you the star of the show at this year's car cruises. It's time to restore that old ride to its former glory. Call on Gary Snare and his team at GNU's Body Works with over 20 years experience. Gary cares about your car almost as much as you do. He can get your motorcycle ready for the road too. GNU's handles collision and general body repairs. So get ready for the happy days ahead and call GNU's Body Works, 8th Street in Freedom.
Insurance doesn't adequately describe what we sell. This is Renee from the Laughlin Insurance Agency. Sure, affordable insurance is the means that allows us to do it, but what we really provide at the Laughlin Insurance Agency is peace of mind. It's true, worrying about risk can take the fun and joy out of almost everything. We see every day how having peace of mind can lead to more enjoyment, which, last time we checked, is a fairly priceless commodity. Make life more enjoyable. Call us at 724-774-1230.
Beaver County Radio's news source, 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
Good morning, this is Curtis Walsh, sitting in for Frank Sparks, and today's forecast is calling for a mix of clouds and sun with a high of 88 degrees. We'll have a complete look at the Beaver County forecast after this look at news. We have an update on that fire that occurred yesterday in Rochester. Here's Beaver County Radio News correspondent Sandy Giordano with the details.
Rochester Fire Chief Mike Ramone reported Friday morning that the Pickle Jar Antique Shop and a storage building next door burned to the ground early Thursday morning in the borough. He said firefighters were dispatched at 2:30 a.m. He said the fire burned very quickly, and all we could do was put water on it. A tenant was pulled out of the burning building by Rochester police, and 3 Baden firefighters went to the hospital, evaluated, and released. Their injuries were very minor, Chief Mamoni said. Firefighters from 14 departments responded, and there were water supply issues and river water was used. The scene was cleared after 4 p.m. Thursday, and a contractor is bulldozing the site and taking the remains of the building away. Mamoni said by the end of today, there will be a parking lot there. The site is owned by Helene Schaefer, according to the Beaver County Assessment Office. The state fire marshal is investigating the cause. This is Sandy Giordano reporting for Beaver County Radio.
The New Brighton Borough Council met last night for their scheduled meeting. Matt Durzik has the details.
The New Brighton Borough Council approved an agreement with PennDOT to begin an ADA curb ramp project for 5th Street in the borough. The borough will share 10% of the cost of the project at a tally of $30,850. The agreement will be through Borough Manager Tom Albanese, who was not in attendance at the Thursday meeting. It was placed on the agenda for the next upcoming council meeting. Mayor Tom Albanese addressed the recent complaints regarding the decibel levels in town and if there was any way for the police department to enforce any ordinances.
We do not have a decibel meter, okay, and nor do we have even though I think it's a good idea and I see where it's coming from, but we don't have the officers to, put that together right now. So no meter, no officers.
Nathaniel Medved was hired as a full-time police officer from the current civil service eligibility list, and the borough paid its bill total of $417,751.06, with a reimbursement of $304,277.23. For Beaver County Radio News, I'm Matt Durzik.
State police announced that one of their York barracks officers was accused of DUI. Joshua Ravel was charged with DUI and driving on roadways laned for traffic while he was on duty August 15th. He is currently suspended without pay. And demolition has started at Carl A. Ashman Memorial Stadium in Aliquippa, commonly known as the Pit. Here's a special report by Sandy Giordano.
As an alumnus of Aliquippa High School, I had an opportunity to go as close as I could to where the stadium demolition is taking place. I had very bittersweet memories when I saw the remains of Carl A. Ashman Memorial Stadium. The stadium was built in 1936 and remained standing until this summer of 2022. This is Sandy Giordano reporting for Beaver County Radio.
Here's the Beaver County forecast on 95.7 and 99.3 FM, along with 1230 WBVP, 1460 WMBA, and streaming at beavercountyradio.com.
Mix of clouds and sun today with a high of 88 degrees. Tonight we'll have mainly clear skies going down to a low of 65. Tomorrow, partly cloudy with a high of 88. On Sunday, thunderstorms with hail and gusty winds possible, reaching a high of 81. And Monday, start the week off with thunderstorms and a high of 78. And on Tuesday, scattered thunderstorms with a high of 82. Currently in Beaver County, we are at 74 degrees. That's a look at the news for now. I'm Curtis Walsh for 1230 WBVP 1460 WMBA 95.7 FM 99.3 FM, all presented by St. Barnabas and streaming live around the world at beavercountyradio.com.
Talk about what's happening in Beaver County or around the world on Teleforum. 724-843-1888. 724-774-1888. It's Teleforum with Eddie Crow.
We're having I'm having a wonderful conversation. Yeah, I don't know if Bill or Steve are. Bill Pasquale and Steve Bailey are here with Medic Rescue. And we're talking about a whole lot of things. First question, now that we got back from the break, how do you not go crazy? How do you really, and I'm being kind of flippant, but how do you unwind? There has to be a way for you to, as you both said, compartmentalize, because it's a tough job. What do you do, Bill, in your free time when you ain't got to answer calls?
Just go home and be with family.
Which is more stressful, picking up people after a car wreck or going home to a ticked off wife?
Yeah, well, no, she's a good girl. She takes good care of me, so I'm very fortunate there. Have a great wife. My 3 kids, although they're mostly out of the house, they've made me a better person, growing up with that. But that and, just hobbies around the house, that's kind of how I do it, hanging with friends and hanging with family.
Steve, how important is family? You mentioned off the air your daughter came through and now she's starting medical school.
Yeah.
It's not a job that has no effect on the family when you go home.
Yeah, that's cool. Oh, I met my wife here. And then whenever I got promoted to supervisor, we were both paramedics. She goes, I can't work for you. So she went to nursing school. so she's off doing that. She's been a nurse for many years. And my daughter followed me through here. My 2 boys, one works for us as an IT guy, and the other one is working in a mill in Elwood. He followed me into the fire service. The other 2, it's just kind of everybody finds their path. And then, it makes a solid family unit. We all have a little bit of things that we have in common. We try not to talk about too much work stuff when we're at home.
You recognize that,
So,
and
yeah.
okay.
Yeah. So, and it's just like watching them develop and become the adults that they became. And, we like to travel a little bit. We're trying to see all 50 states in the United States. We're working our way through that, my wife and I, and just different things like that.
When family members went into it, how much of you was proud and how much of you wanted to protect them from the stuff you knew about that they were going to probably learn about?
Oh, I'm very proud. I mean, it's pretty much a noble profession. And I know Bill and I both came through an era where, and I think part of our problem with recruitment now is we were volunteer firemen young. I started at 16. And so a lot of the people that we started working with at Medic Rescue all had a fire background. That's not the case anymore because we suffer in the volunteer fire service too with no people.
Okay.
So that path there kind of broke. But for my kids, one to follow me through the fire service, the other one to follow me in her medical career. And she decided when she was coming out of high school, this is what she wanted to do. She's going to be a doctor. That was her mission. And this was her path. And then having my wife's influences, she's actually working on her doctorate in nursing right now. So she's been, it's just kind of like it gets in the blood, I guess, somewhat. Now my middle one, computers, that's it. He wants nothing to do with
it.
Right. So, yeah, it's just what it is. And it's been great.
Of the recruits you're getting, Bill, who are the recruits? If it's not the fire department guys or the fire department people like in the past, who is coming into the program? I know the numbers are short, but you're getting some people.
Yeah, there's just people that are coming in off the street just thinking that, hey, this might be something that I might like. So actually it ends up being more of an eye-opening experience for them because they haven't been exposed to emergency services in any other way. So they go through the class, which is, the education part of it is really good, but you really don't grasp what you're getting into until you hit the streets and you're actually having to deal with patients at their worst moment. So sometimes the reality of what they got into, that's when it hits them, and that's when they tend to be a little shaky about staying in the job.
Steve, you mentioned some of the guys or some of the people coming in are college kids.
Yeah,
Why do you think that is?
Because they have that drive to get where they want to go. So
okay.
I want to be a nurse. I want to be a physician's assistant. I want to be a doctor. I want to pursue a medical career. This is a great pathway because all of those pursuits, like PA and physician, become very competitive. So you have to build a resume.
Mm-hmm.
There's not a better resume builder than saying, hey, I've been taking care of people for the last 2 or 3 years on the street, seeing them in their environment, treating them, getting patient contact hours. So that's we thrived on having those college kids come through here, but it's a summer thing, right? So I need to be able to cover the winter and the spring.
Right.
But it's great for them. It's a good summer job. It helps them on their path.
Okay, you guys are both at this point administration, correct?
Yes.
All right. How often do you have to go back on the road because of the shortage?
I'm
Bill way more than I.
Yeah, I'm out almost every day. And it's but again, I would rather be out in the streets working than behind a desk.
Well,
that's where my passion is.
That's what I was going to ask you. You don't seem all that bothered by it.
No, not really. I enjoy helping out our crews because I'll go out to assist crews if they need an extra set of hands. That's part of my responsibilities along with the duty supervisors. But I really enjoy getting out and talking to the patients. You meet a lot of interesting and good people when you're out there, and a lot of patients that I've taken care of over the years know my family name. So, when you're driving from their house to the hospital, it's a great way to pass time.
And to get their mind off of the fact that they're going to the hospital.
Yeah, and it takes them away from their, what their complaint is. It kind of puts them at ease, especially if they have some familiarity with the person that's taking care of them. And, but for me, it's always been a great experience just to, talk about their lives.
Something.
Yeah.
Bill Pasquale and Steve Bailey from Medic Rescue are my guests. What's the dumbest call you ever got? Somebody called and said, I need an ambulance. And you said, okay, why? And they tell you why. You don't got to give me a name. You're both sitting there grinning.
I had a little kid had a styrofoam ball stuck in his nose one day.
That's not funny, but yes, it is. I'm sorry.
Well, they called for an ambulance, and we were able to, and I have no problem with it. We went out and we were able to help the little kid. Of course, he was scared, but we put his mind at ease. We were able to get that little styrofoam ball out without too much complications. And
what's the medical process on that? You go in digging, or you blow air through his mouth to see if it pops out? Pneumatically?
We were able to use a little pair of hemostats and reach up in there and
pinch it.
Yeah. I mean.
Well, but that's a little kid. Give me a grown-up stupid. Little kids, they put Cocoa Puffs up their nose. That happens.
Right.
People call us for toothaches.
For a toothache?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, toothaches, toe pain.
Yeah. How do you politely say, no, we're not, that's not our thing, we don't do that?
Well, so when people call an ambulance, in their mind, they think they need an ambulance.
They need somebody to come there right now.
And so our job is to get there and kind of talk them down a little bit once in a while and say, okay, well, this really is, we'll take you. We will absolutely take you if you insist on going to the hospital. But first of all, the emergency room is not really geared for tooth pain. Right.
So, and we're taking you to a place that's going to tell you to go to a different place.
Right. So, you kind of work through it. And sometimes, most of the time, people will be like, okay, yeah, you're right. But it ties up an asset, right? Because we're not engaged with that patient till we either go to the hospital or we finally get them to refuse and cancel us.
And say, okay, you know what? Yes, you're right. You talked me down. Okay. How do we get more people aware of the need for medic rescue and for everybody? Because at the beginning of the show, we're aware law enforcement way short-staffed, teachers way short-staffed, nurses, hospitals. I don't think people make that connection about ambulance and emergency services. How do you let people know that?
Well, I mean, this helps.
Does it?
Yeah,
I
this
hope
helps,
it does
think,
because it's vital, and I don't. The only time people notice an ambulance is if it's either coming to pick them up or they got to get out of the way because it's going by.
Right.
And-
We do our best to show up to different public events. If we're standing by and do the touch a truck thing, or and do presentations in schools and make them aware of what we're about, and to hopefully encourage or inspire someone to consider this field. So we're out there in the public, besides taking care of people, but trying to educate them as well. So, and that's a big part of what needs to be done to try to get people aware and involved.
How can we help raise money? I know that look, I have had talks with commissioners when radios cost $8,000. How many radios is required for medic rescue to be a fully functioning service? How many radios?
So we have 23 ambulances. So
Okay.
we're going to get 23 mobiles and 46 portables. The portables are $6,000 a piece.
Okay.
And the mobiles are going to be somewhere around 8, if I remember correctly.
Is this something that you shouldn't be left to your own defenses? Because as a nonprofit, that's what I think of. Isn't the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania sitting on a couple $1 billion that they've told us we need to spend this before they take it back?
So the commissioners graciously pulled us into this project. So we're getting a 50-50. They're going to pay 50%. We're paying 50%. But this is coming on the heels of us. We just had to invest in brand new cardiac monitors. So we've just spent
How much?
$500,000 on cardiac monitors to get 17.
Can't you just listen to their heart and tell them it sounds fine?
There's a little more to it than that.
There's a little more to it than that. But yeah, so because a cardiac monitor hits an end of life cycle, and then they're like, here you go, you need to buy a new one. So
Really?
They start off somewhere around $35,000 a piece.
What's the life cycle? Is it built-in obsolescence?
Usually we get about 10 years.
Yeah,
out of them
10 years
when we push through them.
You mentioned education earlier. How long would it take to go through the first step? What is the first step? I want to ride in an ambulance, and I want to do it for medic rescue. What's the first accreditation that I would need?
EMT.
EMT?
EMT, Emergency Medical Technician.
Okay.
CCBC offers the program. There will actually be a program kicking off in September for the fall class. They usually offer it at least twice a year. And it takes, so if they start in September, they'll finish somewhere around February.
Okay. And what is that? So that's 4 or 5 months?
Yeah.
All right.
A couple nights a week and like 1 or 2 Saturdays a month.
And is there some sort of practicum with that where you're going to go out and have real world experience as part of the education?
Yeah. Well, they'll do a ride along.
School everybody up on what the gig actually is.
They'll get to see it. Yes.
I go through and I get my EMT. What would be the next thing that I would do?
Well, the suggestion from any provider that's been doing this more than 15 minutes would be go work for somebody for about a year.
Okay.
To understand the job, because it's important to understand the basic job. And then
I'll start with that. What is, as an EMT, I'm doing basic jobs?
Yeah, basic life support.
What are
is
they?
Basically, they learn how to put on oxygen. They take your vital signs. They can assess the patient, understand what's going on. There's been other components added, like we're allowing EMTs to do a 12-lead EKG on patients. They're not allowed to interpret or do anything other than send it to the hospital and say, we think this guy's having a heart attack.
Yeah.
We're only a BLS truck. This is what's going on. They can give Narcan. They can give some glucose. They can give basic things. And then that next step becomes being a paramedic. So that program, depending on where you go.
How much more difficult did the education just get with the next step up?
So
Not difficult, involved.
it gets a little bit more involved because you're starting to step into the medical professional level of like coming up toward nursing. So you're going to learn a lot more cardiac things. You're going to learn how to start IVs, how to read the monitor and understand what that cardiac monitor is putting out for you, checking blood sugars and understanding all the things that are possibly happening to this patient. So what our job is as paramedics is to start the treatment that's going to continue at the ER. So a lot of times, like a cardiac arrest, we can do just about everything that emergency room is doing in your living room. And that's the important component because obviously speed is of the essence. So the faster that we get that patient treated, the better the outcome could be if it's going to be.
All right. So as an EMT, I'm getting the information, but as an EMS, I'm starting to actually interpret the information.
Correct.
Has there been a problem, talking about shortages? Have you needed to take people to different emergency rooms because of hospital staffing?
That's probably not as prevalent.
No, just call volume's a big thing. So any particular day, I mean, we could sit some days and do very little.
Okay.
And other days get basically overrun. And that trickles into the hospital because then, obviously the more patients we're taking care of, the more we're delivering to the hospital. And not only are they coming in by ambulance, they're coming in by private vehicle. So sometimes the hospital will get a little bit backed up, and then that may cause a diversion or the hospital will let us know, hey, we're really busy. See if this patient would want to go to another hospital. They might get treated a little quicker. So, but
there are some nursing shortages
that play into. I mean, the manpower shortage is a problem across the board in the health field.
Is it not? You said a little bit. You're starting to see a trickle back in. Is there any timeline? Because you're seeing the numbers, you guys, every day. How many, on an average day, how many runs do you do? Or how many runs does Medic Express get called out for? Medic Rescue, excuse me. How many?
So we probably average transporting probably a little over 50 a day to the hospital.
50?
Yeah, and we'll probably run another 20% on top of that or cancellations. So, we're somewhere, we probably average about 60 to 70 responses during the course of a day, get there, get canceled. In addition to the emergencies, though, we're also handling non-emergency work. So we are transporting people hospital to hospital. Well, it's a medical, so like if they need a higher level of service than the local hospital provides, we can take them to the city. Or if they're too sick and bed confined to get to dialysis or a medical appointment, our folks are providing that service also.
Talking to Medic Rescue, I've got Steve Bailey here, and I've got Bill Pasquale here. Am I oversimplifying it by saying this stuff should be funded by the Commonwealth? You smile when I say that, Steve, but that's perfectly logical.
It is. The system's broken.
Okay.
And everybody realizes the system's broken, but nobody's figured out how we're going to fix this.
Do you really believe everybody's figured out that it's broken?
I don't believe that everybody's figured out that it's broken. It becomes popular. People start talking about it, and then it just kind of fades off. It's going to take a lot of changes in the system, in the legislature. Like our county isn't set up to be able to provide the service because the way that the county charter is. And it's like, and
how so?
It's just that they're not able to provide the funding for this service. That's why there's not a county fire service. There's not a county, the county detectives and the sheriff's department are different animals than what we are. That's provided for in the legislature. So there's no providing for, because we're having the same talks with the fire service. When you go west, you cross the Mississippi, emergency services are city and county.
Absolutely.
And that's how it works.
Yep.
You come back on this side of the country where we were founded in 56 municipalities in Beaver County alone, it turns into a little bit of a nightmare.
Is it going to get worse because of the aging population? Has it gotten worse? You've both been in this over 3 decades. Has it gotten more difficult just numbers-wise because of the population?
I think we're going to continue to struggle because of the manpower issues. And obviously the population. One of the other things that we see, or at least that I notice, especially with caring for the elderly, not so many people can afford to be into nursing homes. Right. So they're staying at home. And you see, and this is a big draw on our services, is because we respond to a lot of lift assist calls where somebody has fallen in their home and they can't get themselves up. Or, whoever husband or wife that they live with can't, assist
help.
them.
Yeah,
I've fallen and I can't get up.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. And that's happening more and more often. And I think that is because people are tending to want to stay at home. They're not being, and I can understand it. You don't want to go to a nursing home,
right.
But these people are not in a position where they can adequately care for themselves. So we are that outreach.
You're starting to fill those gaps too.
Yeah, we have been, and that adds a demand on the system because you're going to have. We get calls to go out. She can't get out of a chair, or he's fallen and can't get up. Not injured,
Right.
mind you. These people, and they're upfront with it.
Yeah.
They've fallen. They're not injured. They can't get off the floor, and that's that I think that's a big product of not having financial resources for those people to be able to hire care or be placed somewhere where they could get the care that they really need.
Bill Pasquale and Steve Bailey of Medic Rescue have been my guests. What should I have asked you that I didn't ask you? Bill, I'll start with you.
Oh, gee, I don't know. You've been pretty thorough with your questions to this point. Yeah, I don't know.
You ever see a day you're going to not want to do this anymore? Or it seems like 30 whatever years, you're a lifer at this point.
Yeah,
Yeah.
oh, I'm a lifer.
Yeah.
I don't think there's anybody else that would want me. But no, I hope not. I mean, I really do still enjoy the work. The people we work, our crews are amazing. They are absolutely amazing. Given what they have to do day in and day out, for them to keep coming to work and doing what they're doing, I can't say enough good things about the men and women that are doing this job, not only for us, but across the state and across the nation. The people that are involved in this type of work are truly the unsung heroes in the healthcare industry because they get those people in need to the place that they need to be, and it very, you don't often get a pat on the back. And really, if you're in this for the right reasons, you're not even looking for that.
You go home knowing you made the world a better place.
Yeah, you helped one. At least if you helped one person that day, then you've done your job.
All right, Steve. Anybody listening that thinks they might be interested in this,
absolutely,
tell them what to do.
Yeah, so get a hold of if you want to become an EMT, check out CCBC's website. I know that class is going to be starting in September. If you want to ease into it, maybe I can direct you to your volunteer fire department. We have a great relationship with a lot of the volunteer fire departments in the county that are providing an initial response for us. They're going out and doing some of this work with us alongside us. We support them. We appreciate their assistance, and it kind of gives us that that extra layer in the county.
Mm-hmm.
It's been great. Like City of Beaver Falls, City of Aliquippa, paid fire departments, their people answer medical calls. A lot of the volunteer services are doing that also. So if you have an inkling that you want to get started and you want to see it from the inside, go check your fire department out if you're not sure you want to become an EMT. And then, that's a nice path. Go to the EMT class. And then, we used to say it's a recession-proof job because somebody always needs.
Somebody needs help.
Yep.
It's absolutely right. Steve Bailey and Bill Pasquale have been my guests. Gentlemen, thank you.
Oh, thank you.
Wonderful. I feel so much better about humanity after our conversation.
I appreciate you giving us the time to talk about it.
Absolutely. Medic Rescue is the company. How many years together? What'd you say?
Well, I was 38.
All right.
35.
Steve, 73? All right. I'd pass
Used to
them.
work together.
You hate each other's guts at this point.
No. We get along very well.
It's okay. Well, that's 73 years.
We're like an old married couple.
Yeah.
That's absolutely amazing. You two have contributed to the betterment of Beaver County for 3/4 of a century. I'd be damn beaming about that.
Falling in love is one thing. Having anxiety about falling is a whole different subject. If you or a family member are concerned about falling, and yes, either up or down the stairs, or maybe even out of bed, St. Barnabas has a special message and some ideas just for you. Years of experience in working with people who are prone to falls has given St. Barnabas special expertise in this area. Call them at 724-443-0700 and learn about ways that you can begin to feel more confident and safe, including suggestions that you can implement right now into your daily routine. Call St. Barnabas at 724-443-0700. For many years now, St. Barnabas has been helping people fall, in love that is, with their new, better life, a longer life, a risk-free life. Call St. Barnabas now at 724-443-0700 or visit stbarnabashealthsystem.com and learn more about living longer and better.
Ready for our little forest adventure?
Yes! much waiting for me. Yeah, I wanna go outside. I wanna be.
We're here.
Whoa, that was fast.
There's a forest closer than you think. Find a park or forest near you and music inspired by nature. DiscoverTheForest.org. Brought to you by USDA Forest Service and the Ad Council.
74 years into this, and we're still making waves, figuratively in your community, and literally in the air. Check out the newest member of the Beaver County radio family, the all-new 95.7 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, along with 99.3 FM, 1230 WBVP, and 1460 WMBA. You're listening to 95.7 FM, 99.3 FM, presented by St. Barnabas, in addition to 1230 WBVP Beaver Falls and 1460 WMBA Ambridge.
News this hour from townhall.com. I'm Rich Thomason. A federal judge is giving the Justice Department until next Thursday to suggest what parts of the Trump raid affidavit can be released to the public. The judge says he is inclined to unseal at least part of the document that supported the FBI's raid on Mr. Trump's Florida estate. Attorney Deanna Schulman, representing news organizations, asked how the court might move ahead.
Judge Reinhart gave us some clues to that today by telling us, for example, that at this juncture he is not inclined to keep the entirety of the search warrant application and its affidavit under seal, meaning that he understands that the public is going to likely be entitled to some parts of this warrant application and its affidavit.
Former President Trump urges release of the affidavit while the Justice Department argues against it. Some 20 people have been charged with voter fraud in Florida. Governor Ron DeSantis says are in the process of being arrested. Most are accused of casting ballots illegally in 2020 because they were previously convicted of murder or sexual assault. Top executive of the Trump Organization pleads guilty to tax evasion.
In a New York City courtroom, Trump Organization CFO Alan Weisselberg pleaded guilty to all 15 of the charges he faced in the case. He admitted to taking in over $1.7 million worth of untaxed perks. Weisselberg was sentenced to 5 months in prison. He also will have to pay nearly $2 million in taxes, penalties, and interest, complete 5 years of probation, and testify truthfully as a prosecution witness when the former president's family business goes on trial in October on related charges. Greg Clugston, Washington.
After visiting Ukraine, the UN Secretary General urging Russian troops to withdraw from the area surrounding Europe's largest nuclear power plant.